his theory on broader populations instead of assuming that his clinical population represents the rest of the world. He actually went out and did ethnographic and whatnot type of research to really see if what he's noting is something that actually is something that is notable. But what makes his theory close to Freud's is that it's a conflict theory, meaning that at each stage of development, we come to a point of conflict that is either going to promote us health and well-being, or is going to give us difficulties in our development in our psychological world. Okay, so and each age period represents some type of need that we often need. That sounds uh, uh, backwards. It often represents some type of need that we need to understand at a given point of development or a given point of where we're at. Okay. Now, the model that we're going to talk about is what's called Erik Erikson psychosocial. Sometimes it's called socio-emotional theory of development. Okay, and the conflicts are dualic in nature. But the thing that I would like you to do as a class is I'm going to present this as Erikson originally presented it. He theorized that, for example, after about the age of 1.5, we have either developed trust in our world or mistrust. We don't trust our world, okay? And it was one or the other. What I would encourage you as an update to his model while you're thinking about your experiences and where you would lie on these is think about them as a continuum with pure trust on one side and complete mistrust on the other side. And we're somewhere in the middle, okay? Because as we go through, and this will make sense as I talk about trust versus mistrust, I know raising my son, because this is all about relationships now. This model is all about relationships with our world. Is there were times where I was very, very responsive to my son, but I'm human being. I'm a human being, and sometimes I wasn't as responsive to my son. So while I hope he's closer to the trust end of the continuum, I know that he's somewhere in between because I wasn't a perfect parent and his infant dynamics played into the relationship. And so he's somewhere in between. And so are all of us if we think about the way our parents were with us, which will make more sense as we move through these different stages of development as Erikson presented them. The other thing that you will note about Erikson's model is he didn't stop at the age of 18. Okay. In fact, he added 3 other stages that took us through the complete lifespan. And his model was one of the first models to actually say that we develop differently, or we have different crises that we need to solve throughout the lifespan, that it just doesn't stop at the age of 18, that we continue to come across different challenges and successes. And so we can't just stop at the age of 18. Okay. So let's go through and let's rehearse this model. Okay. So let's start with our infants. And let's talk first about between 0 and about 1.5 to 2 years of age. And why is this a unique period of time to really develop trust? Okay. Truly, it's because in this age period, we are truly a helpless species. Um, we have to rely on others for food, sustenance, warmth, coolness, comfort, um, um, attention, all of those things we can't do for ourselves until we get to about 1.5 to 2 years when we start to have the motor ability and the skills to feed ourselves and do all of those things on our own. So this age is a good age to really kind of test the waters about our social world and the people around us. Okay. So I'm going to take us through what does it mean in developing trust versus mistrust. Okay. So let's start with trust. Okay. So let's have a little baby Billy, and the primary caregiver. I want to make it mom because I like moms, and they tend to kind of bring up the emotions of the first people who care for us. So we're going to use Billy and mom as our example. Okay, so little Billy's born, and Billy cries and mom shows up, changes little Billy. And if you've ever been a caregiver for an infant, you will notice something that it's just not about changing the diaper and putting the baby down. If you actually really take the time, we're going to talk about this infant child dance between caregivers and the child or the infant. In the infancy stage, if you notice when you change an infant, most of the time, unless they're very colicky or high-tempered or whatnot, there's a soothness that comes over them, and they will look at you and you'll look at them and you'll gain this sense of you are here for me, thank you, yes, I'm here for you, you're welcome kind of moment. This reciprocity between the infant and the mother, so between Billy and mom. Okay. And so mom leaves little Billy, and Billy cries again, and mom shows up again and goes, "Oh, you must be hungry," and feeds little Billy. Leaves again, Billy cries again, mother shows up. "Oh, you need comfort, you need held." Okay, and then she puts him down. They have that mother Billy moment, and she leaves again, and there's this back and forth. And what is Billy really learning in this case? That if I need something, as long as I maintain that relationship, someone will come. Okay. And so they're learning that I need something, someone comes here, we take care of it, then we have this moment together and reinforce that relationship, and that they will return again in the future. All right. So that's trust. And that's kind of kind of an easy thing to kind of understand. All right. Now let's talk about mistrust. Okay. Now, when I do this example, in these classes, one, you might want to put on some headphones. um, but two, I don't want you to listen to the words I say. I want you to listen to the emotion I express. Because infants, as we know, don't really know language, as far as we know, anyways. Okay. They don't understand identity versus role confusion, for example. Okay. What they do know is our first language, which is emotions. Infants know emotions better than adults know emotions, and they know that language. Okay. So what I want you to do is feel the words I say, not necessarily listen to the words I say. Okay. So let's go through mistrust. Mistrust sounds something like this. Billy cries, no one shows up. 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 Billy cries, door swings open, mom's at the door. She's going, "What do you need now? I'm trying to watch my show and you're just constantly crying. What could you possibly need?" Okay. Now, I hope I expressed the emotion correctly, but what is Billy learning emotionally? And then he's going to put a language to it later on when he develops language, is he's learning that one, if I need someone, there's no guarantee that anyone is ever going to show up. Two, if someone does show up, they're going to make me feel like I'm the problem and that they're helping me out of my own worthlessness for what I can't do. Okay. Now, I know that's kind of hard to understand for an infant to understand that, but you have to understand we understand that on an emotional level. If we would shut down our cognitive brain, we will have that same exact feeling that I just expressed in words. Okay. So, this is mistrust, where we don't know if someone's going to show up. And if I do have someone that they're going to make me feel like, oh, I'm a burden to them. Okay. So that's complete mistrust. And we all, again, I just want to go back to this example before we move on. We all probably are somewhere in between complete mistrust versus complete trust. But this model, according to Erickson, states that we either develop one or the other. Okay. So, what is it that if we develop more on the trust end of things, what is it that we will go on and experience? Well, we'll go on and feel trust from our environmental supports. Okay, we will go on with the confidence that the people are around me for positive reasons, and if I get stuck, it's okay to ask for help. On the mistrust end, we're going to develop fear and concern. We're going to be fearful. And so, this is what's going to create for this infant, if we want to look at it behaviorally. This is going to be the infant who cries every time mom tries to leave the room because that infant doesn't know when that mom is going to come back. Or on the other extreme end, it's going to be the infant who doesn't want anything to do with anybody. They don't care if their hand's on fire, don't touch me type of thing. And again, I'm talking extremes, right? We're talking completes here, but that's kind of the idea behind what Erickson was trying to express. Okay. So let's go then to 1.5, 2 to 3 to 4 age with Erickson's model. Now, if nothing changes in the child's environment, if nothing changes in the child's world, and we got to make this very clear, if nothing changes, the infant who developed trust in infancy is going to carry that into the next developmental phase. It's going to help them do what they need to do for this next phase. So it's kind of going to give them a protective factor. Mistrust, if nothing's going to change, it's going to continue to develop on the negative end of the continuum. Okay. So the first thing that I need to do is we need to take a little survey in our chat. Okay. And so I want you to all think about this. Tell me what the difference, and I'm going to type this question in the chat, the difference between shame, doubt, and guilt. There's no right or wrong answers on this. So don't be shy. There is really absolutely no right or wrong answers because in popular culture and everything, we often interchange these terms. So please feel comfortable in giving me your answers in the chat. So in the chat, there's the questions. What is the difference between shame, doubt, and guilt? I'll give you about maybe three, four, maybe between 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the response. So go ahead, let's see what you guys think, and then we'll go from there. Kevin, excellent observation. Doubt hasn't happened yet. Okay. Excellent, Summer. I really like your answer, the difference between who and what. Guilt is a crime and shame is an emotional embarrassment. I can see that. Those are very good behavioral examples, Tia. Thank you. Chloe, those are again some really good examples. She says shame is about feeling guilty, right, of what you have done, or doubt is what you feel is right or wrong. Excellent. Those are some really good examples. Good job, both of you, all three of you so far. Colby, that's a your example of doubt is I like how you've worded that, not having trust in yourself. Shame, yeah. Okay. All right, excellent. Let's see what Alyssa. Guilt is done something wrong. Shame is how we feel when you don't learn or feel bad about something we've done. Blame is like stealing from you and blaming someone else for those are, Alyssa, those are some great behavioral examples. All right, gang, I think we have some good examples here and some very vivid examples. So good job on that. So let's kind of give some summary definition to these. So let's going from the definitions that you provided. Larea, shame is what you feel. Oh, good. All right, Larea, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so let's give just some more clarification on exactly what you guys are talking about. So let's start with guilt. Guilt is a feeling bad about something you've done wrong. Okay, so when we feel guilt, we feel that we've done something wrong. Okay, when we talk about shame, this is a feeling that something is wrong with you as a person, leading a sense of worthlessness and inadequacy. So when we feel shame, we often feel like there's something wrong with us. And so there's something wrong with our behaviors and the way we respond to the world. And so we apologize for everything. Okay. We constantly are saying, oh, I did wrong again, even if we may not have at all. Okay. So doubt, if we want to put a definition to that, is a feeling of uncertainty or lack of confidence in oneself, which can stem from contributions of feelings of shame. Okay. So shame is that there's something wrong with me. Guilt is the feeling that you've done something wrong. So kind of like what some of you had said, guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is I think I might because of who I am. I'm worthless. Okay. So let's talk though about what happens with 1.5 to about 3 year olds. If any of you, if you have heard the term the terrible twos, right? What is with these terrible 2 year olds? While they're very, very, very curious, they want to know what their world is all about. Okay. And this is really where the term mother child dance developed because some observation about children who have healthy relationships with their caregivers do a special type of interaction with them. And it's kind of cool to watch. Okay. So let's start with autonomy. Autonomy is this belief that I can do things on my own and for myself, but if I need help, someone will be there for me. Okay. So behaviorally, what healthy autonomy looks like is little Billy goes and plays in his room for 10, 15 minutes. And then he'll go and he will go to let's say mom's in the kitchen doing some work on her computer. She's works from home, let's say. And little Billy goes in the kitchen and goes, hey, mom, just checking in on you. Looking good. Hope you're doing a good job there. Just checking on you. Check you later. And then little Billy will go back to his room, play for about 10, 15 minutes, and then come back and go, hey, mom, geez, almost lunchtime. Well, what do you think we'll have today? And then he'll leave again, and little Billy will go play in his room for another 10 to 15 minutes. And they do this dance back and forth. What is little Billy doing in this case? He's going and exploring autonomously, but he knows that he's exploring a world that he doesn't know a lot about. So he's going back, and this is adult thinking in this. Yeah, I don't think little Billy is rationalizing this in any way, but this is kind of the adult version of what we think is going on in little Billy's mind. He's going back and just checking in on mom and reinforcing that relationship, kind of saying, "Hey, mom, I'm here. I'm happy. You're good. We're good. I'll be over here exploring again. Just want you to know that I'm still here." And they're doing this dance back and forth. Okay. And that is what we find is healthy autonomy. What we find is children who do this kind of interaction with their parent actually develop a very healthy sense of self-sufficiency later in childhood, and they do better scholastically, they do better relationship wise, and it's really interesting. This is happening at this 1.5 to 3, 4 years of age, where we see this constant interaction in between the caregiver and the infant, or the early childhood by this point. Okay. Let's talk about shame and doubt. What does that look like? It looks very behaviorally similar to the mistrust phase. Okay. When a child feels shame for who they have a very difficult time cognitively being able to think about going and exploring on their own. They don't know if they should. If they do, they might get punished. If they go out into the world, they might not make it. And if they do, there's not going to be anyone that's going to show up and help them. So what do? They disengage from the world. And again, this behaviorally looks like two things. It's either the child in early childhood who is very clingy to the caregiver because they don't want to let them go, because they don't feel the self-worth ability to let go, and that's their kind of what you would call their security blanket, as you would say. Or it's the child that um, uh, um, uh, it's the child who there's a house, the family is together on a Sunday and whatnot, and everyone goes, hey, where's little Billy at? Into part of the evening, and they go looking for Billy, and they find him 2, 3 blocks down the road playing in some neighbor's play yard or swing set or something, not giving a care in the world what anyone else is doing. Now, I want to put it this way because this isn't a defiant child. And this is the mistake that is often made in this early child. That child who is constantly doing what everyone else doesn't want them to do, this isn't defiance. This is shame and doubt playing in the role that that child just does not trust its world enough, their world enough. It's not an it, their world enough that you all are so unpredictable. I'm going to do my own thing. And I'm not going to care what you all think about it because you don't care about me. Okay. So again, these are extremes. Uh, Remember that these are extremes, and I'm going to continue to remind us about this, but these are extremes. So let's go on though, and go on. Again, if nothing changes in the child's environment, we're going to hit the play years. You remember when we talked about Freudian theory, we talked about this unique type of play that children between the age of 3 to 5 do. And it's called imitative play or role playing, where again, they watch mom and dad and then they go play house. They watch Superman and throw on a towel around their neck and see if they can fly. Firefighters, police officers, whoever they can emulate within their exposed world, they go and they act those things out. They play them out. Okay. Um, and again, what we find is if the child is in a healthy, supportive environment, this child develops what we call initiative. And again, the other unique thing about this age group I should mention before we get into the initiative versus guilt too much, this is where peers and siblings start to take on a more important role. If we look below this group into this group, the primary caregiver, the parent, is the primary source of socialization and interaction. Okay. Around this time, we're starting to independently choose some siblings or choose a neighbor child, choose a kid at preschool or daycare to interact with and start developing relationships with and friendships with. And so the child with initiative is kind of that child that says, "Hey, everybody, let's go play hide and seek." It's the child who initiates action into discovery into the world with two primary purposes. One, to reinforce the relationship between the child and their peers. So let's go play a game. Let's go play outside. Let's go have some fun. And two, to kind of learn how to interact with the world, how to be a firefighter, a police officer, a doctor, I don't know, whatever it may be that they're imitatively playing and really learning something about themselves. Okay. Now, again, when we look at the research on play between this age group, and this is really, really important. When we look at this group, um, um, uh, the more play a child does during this age group, the better they do in school, the less likely that this is an interesting study, the less likely they will get into teen pregnancy, less likely to enter into drugs and alcohol, more likely to go to college. They're more likely to be occupation oriented later in life, and the more likely they'll stay married in a happy relationship. Okay. We don't often think of that as adults because adults, we don't play, right? And so we found that kids that are strict, you got to sit and write the words 50 million times before you can play, or you got to do all these things before you can, and play is used as a reward. Those children tend to do less well academically, are more likely to enter into high risk behaviors in the teen years, and have more difficulty in relationships into adulthood. So, message is you have a child between this age group, let them play. Anyways, that's what the research suggests. Okay, now let's look at the guilt end of things. Okay, again, we're talking about now peer-to-peer interaction or peer-to-sibling interaction, as I also like to say. In this case, this is the child who tends to be more impulsive. Okay, they're gonna feel guilt for what they do, and so so there's two behavioral trajectories. Why not do it? So little Billy, he sees Anne, his peer playing with a toy, and little Billy goes, "You know what? I want to play with that toy," and he just goes and grabs it out of little Anne's hands and takes off with it and says, "Ah, tough, tough, tough luck for you." And then the teacher comes over and tries to, anyways, not going to go into the extent of that. So that's one end, is the child's just going to do what they do, much like with a shame and doubt from 1 to 3. Or they're going to be that person who cannot detach again from that primary caregiver, but they do it in either a very quiet, meaning that they become very inward or shy, or they're very vocal and angry, okay, with the caregiver. That anger is a showing of, I'm going to try and control our relationship. The shyness is that I'm going to allow you to control this relationship, okay, which is not good on either end. Okay. So again, this is kind of again those extremes. We're all in between, and that's what makes us such diverse and human uh, individuals. All right. So now let's go to our school years, our elementary years. And again, I'm going to say this again, assuming nothing changes in the child's life. The kid that has developed trust, not autonomy, and initiative is going to be set up for industry. And the child who has mistrust, shame, and guilt and doubt is going to be set up for inferiority. Okay. So what is this? So we, in our elementary years, not only are we focusing a lot on our peer and sibling relationships, we're at school and we're developing those relationships in the absence of a caregiver. You know, again, a teacher, elementary age teacher is there to teach, not necessarily be the caregiver, even though I think that's what they do for the majority of the time. Okay. So what is it that they can develop during this period of time that we can take note of? Well, we can take note of things like talent. We can take note of things such as interest. What will I be interested in? Will I be interested in art, or will I be interested in physics? Will I be interested in both? Who knows? But this is the time we're going to test what we're good at and what we're bad at. Okay. And so let's take our little Billy. And let's say he's decided that he wants to play the guitar. All right. So let's take industry first. So little Billy plays his guitar, and mom and dad and brother and sister go, gosh, at home. Gosh, you sound really good, Billy. You keep practicing. You're going to be a rock star someday. And so little Billy at home is going, huh, mom and dad and brother and sister think I'm really good at this. I wonder what they think about what my friends at school would think about my skill. And so little Billy takes his guitar to school and plays on his guitar in front of his friends, and his friends are going, "Oh, Billy, we're gonna start a band someday. You'll be lead, I'll be the singer, and Josh over here will be the drummer, and Ann will play the bass, and we'll just rock this world. We're great." What is little Billy learning in this case? He's learning not only does something he enjoy give value to himself, it's valuable to other people as well. And this is why Erickson coined the word industry or industrious, is that the child is learning that they have skills that have value to other people and not just to themselves. And so it becomes both internally rewarding and externally rewarding to engage in that behavior. Okay. Now, let's go to the opposite side of the continuum, as we would say. Um, Inferiority. Okay. So let's take little Billy at home again, and little Billy's strumming on the guitar, and mom walks in the room and says, "Billy, I told you not to practice after I get home. Okay, just do it when I'm not at home. I, I'm, you're fine. I just don't want to listen to I don't want to listen to the noise." Okay, so little Billy kind of goes, "Wow, mom, dad, they kind of don't like it when I play. But what about school? What if I try to play at school and see what my friends think?" And so little Billy goes to school and plays on his guitar, and his friends like, you better focus on your schoolwork a little bit more, Billy. I don't think that's going to work out for you very well." All right. What is little Billy learning in this instance? little Billy is learning. Not only does he struggle developing the skill, even though it can be an enjoyment for himself, but it has no value. It has no value to other people and whatnot. And so, what's he going to develop this inferiority? There's other people that they'll listen to them play guitar for hours, but I'm inferior to all of those other people. Okay. So they develop a sense of inferiority. Now, this is context based, right? Little bit and the like. So I just want to keep this in mind that this is context based. This is skill based. Okay. Hence, we all are somewhere between industry and inferiority. I remember during this age group, I tried to play the violin. That ended up on that inferiority end. But there were other things that I could do. I could draw quite well. And so that I was rewarded for that. So I just want to point out that this is more context based on the reactions of people in our environment. But if these environments are the same as those earlier childhoods, most things are the little Billy is going to feel inferior on the right side of our continuum. All right. So what does this set us up for? Well, on the industry end, it sets us up for the development of a sense of competency, ability. If I try hard enough, if I practice hard enough, it'll work out. People will respond to me and whatnot. On the inferiority, it's this sense that I don't develop what we call a sense of self-efficacy. That if I'm set to do something, I don't have confidence that I can do it. I don't have the efficacy in the ability to master something. Okay. Now I will pause right here. We'll probably only get through, we'll probably need to leave adolescence and adulthood for Monday because I do want to just focus on one thing. From Erickson's theory, this does develop one of our first theories of bullying. Okay. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I wish we had a lot more time to talk about this topic in this class because it's not, as Erickson much said, but I do just want to just let everyone know what one of the first kind of theories about bullying in school is about. Okay. And it starts with inferiority. One of the very first theories of bullying is you start with a bully, the person who's bullying, who has a sense of inferiority. And so, in order to get a sense of superiority, they bully people to make them feel less worthless than what the bully actually feels. And that makes the bully feel better about themselves. Okay. This theory then went on to try and explain things like domestic violence, which failed horribly, by the way. Most people who commit domestic violence have an inflated sense of self-esteem. It has nothing to do with a low self-worth. I just want to put that out there. But let's go back to this. So who then becomes a victim of this bully? Well, it's someone else who also has inferiority because the protective factor from being bullied is confidence and competency. Okay, so both in the original models of bullying, so we need to build up the self-esteem of the bully, but also these poor victims, we need to give them a sense of confidence too, so that they don't become bullied. Okay, now I'm going to fast forward. Again, I wish we had more time to get into this topic. It's a lot more complicated than this because just like with my domestic violence example, a lot of bullies come from advantaged places. They come from a sense of industry, a sense of competency. For example, the stereotype of the football player being a bully. So we don't necessarily have an inferior versus an inferior. So it is a lot more complicated than what Erickson proposed, but there is this, but even within modern models of bullying, there is still this sense of there's something missing in the bully's life that makes them engage in that behavior, or something that they fear about themselves or fear about who they are, that promotes them to engage in that behavior. And that's something that kind of was wringed out of Erikson's theory as more research has been done on the topic of bullying. So, okay, we better stop right here, and we'll leave adolescence and adulthood for Monday.